All right, we're live now. So great to have everyone joining us. I see people were waiting already, so thanks for being on time. Yeah, this is a SAP community call about the topic how to build, integrate and consume intelligent applications with AI and ISLM, Intelligent Scenario for Lifecycle Management, right? But I'm not the expert in this, so I'm glad to have my colleagues here, experts in this field around AI and ISLM. My colleagues are Priti Dhingra, Kartik Muthuswamy, and Abhishek Mishra. And the three of them will talk about this topic in detail. But as always, you will have the chance to get your questions addressed. So please post your questions in the chat and we'll have enough time at the end to get over them. So, and I think the speakers will introduce themselves as well. And I'll like to hand over to Kartik, who's now going to start with a presentation and a short introduction about himself.
Thank you, Milena. So let me share my screen. And hello, everyone. Welcome to this call on how to build, consume, and integrate intelligent applications with AI and ISLM. I'm Kartik, and I work for the AI Business Services team as a senior AI scientist. And in this call, I will be sharing some insights into what are the AI business services available and how we could consume it. And we have our colleagues as well from the ISLM team who will also be sharing further some updates on how to integrate these into an intelligent application with ISLM. So before we go further, we have a quick disclaimer that, of course, some things are bound to change. So what we show on this call is at this point. And here is a quick agenda for what we will be sharing today. First, we'll start with Intelligent Enterprise, what it's about. We will also then talk about the integration and operation of AI business services in S4HANA using ISLM and the standardization integration of AI in S4HANA with ISLM. And we'll also have a demo, of course, so stay tuned for that. And in the end, we'll also share some further updates about ISLM and about AI business services as well. Without further ado, let's get started. So we will first get started with how does SAP enable an enterprise become an intelligent, sustainable enterprise, right? So first of all, we talk about the business technology platform. So the business technology platform is a unified, business-centric platform. So this is an open platform that enables an application development team to focus on solving the business problem and delivering the outcomes. So when we are talking about solving the business problem, we have four main topics, things like application development, integration, data and analytics, and AI, of course. When we are talking about these parts, so of course, we're talking about creating personalized experiences that instantly work with SAP applications. So when you're, of course, dealing with SAP data, you're going to need that for sure. We also need for an application development team to build faster with business contexts and the context to meet change with agility. So this is also going to be paramount when you're building an application and integrating AI into it. Now, given this fact, we need to run with confidence. So now we need to have AI or data and analytics that provides this trust and the enterprise-grade platform as well. And this is where the fourth part also comes in. So these are the key foundations for building an application on the business technology platform. And of course, when you're talking about this, the platform comprises of services and products out of four different categories here. And so these are, we'll talk about this in a bit more further as well. So when we're talking about the SAP Business Technology Platform, it comes with a broad set of platform services. So for instance, we talk about the Discovery Center, so which as a central BTP entry point for the SAP Discovery Center provides a resource for BTP information and for guidance. We talk about then the ecosystem and the marketplace. The app development, where SAP offers a powerful suite of development supporting applications and tools covering all from pro code via low code to no code tools as well. And also we have different other application development, digital experiences as well. So yeah, and of course in the final part, which is also one of the major points that we'll be talking about, is integration. So integration solutions, which lets you simplify and integrate applications on premise and in the cloud. So when we're talking about AI in the business processes, so basically supported by the SAP software. So we will get into, first of all, talking about the AI technology portfolio. So here we talk about two different aspects of things. So typically AI embedded in custom applications, where, for instance, you would want to have your own custom application, but you would like to leverage AI offered by SAP. So that's one part of it. And the other part where you have SAP applications where AI is embedded naturally into them. So here we have S/4HANA, which is aided by the intelligent scenario lifecycle management, which is going to also provide various tools and ways into integrating the AI services into the application itself. So we'll talk about a little more detail as well, in the later slides. But for now, we will take a look at the complementary runtimes and, for instance, the AI runtimes also available. The SAP AI Core is our core AI runtime available, and on which the SAP AI Business Services are built, as well as SAP Conversational AI is also built. And we'll also take a bit more deeper dive into the AI Business Services, because we'll also be talking about how the AI Business Services will be integrated through ISLM in the future. So let's talk a bit more about the AI Business Services. So we have quite a few, like a set of AI services available, and we have like a portfolio of business services which deals with the business document processing. We also have, for instance, that the business document processing contains the business entity recognition, document information extraction, document classification, while we also have other services like the personalized recommender, data attribute recommendation, and service ticket intelligence, which sort of closes the other side of things, where all of these services are geared towards solving specific business problems. We'll take a deeper dive into a few of these, because we want to also share some information around how and what are these services available, and how you could consume it, and when are they actually applicable for. So first, let's take a look at document information extraction. As the name suggests, it extracts information out of documents. So, but here we're talking about master data. So typically things like transaction data. And here we're talking about how do we extract this information, say, for example, from invoices. And typically these are unstructured documents, and you would like to extract information like, for instance, names. You would like to extract line item. You'd like to extract quantities, prices, for instance. So these are all ways that it's going to be useful for any business to actually leverage to extract this information out of an invoice, which is an unstructured document. When you talk about business entity recognition, so here it helps detect and highlight any types of business entities from typically unstructured text. And the business entity recognition service actually offers pre-trained machine learning models in order to be productive immediately, as well as it allows custom entity recognition models that can be trained for full flexibility. So if you have your own data, you can custom train an entity recognition model all by yourself. And all of this is going to aid in automatically extracting the context from incoming emails, for instance, or invoice inquiries and so on. So basically, you will be able to extract specific entities out of unstructured text. We're talking about data attribute recommendation. It's a service which allows you to automate master data and track transactional data. So basically structured data. And basically here, the main goal is to update, to correct, and to maintain quality, consistency of structured data. And this is, again, an AI service which allows you to use multiple types of data, for instance, free text, numbers, and categories as input, while on the other end have different types of targets also be targeted. So you're going to have, things like you can actually predict numbers, for instance, typically the regression cases, and as well as classification use cases. And last but not the least, we have service ticket intelligence, for instance, which actually takes care of customer tickets, as the name suggests, and basically classifying routing, for instance, and also similar ticket recommendation, so that it allows customers to reduce repetitive tasks, and it also basically allows categorizing and providing recommendations for ticketing solutions. Having said that, we'll also quickly share like a business scenario. So for instance, you could think about like a business challenge, for instance, like a multiple inbound channel here for internal and standard inquiries, for instance. And here you get an email, for example, attached with maybe an invoice, and a person is asking, hey, what happened to my my ticket? Is this actually working, for instance? And what we could do is we could leverage service ticket intelligence to classify this ticket into a particular particular class, use business entity recognition to extract particular information. So for example, document information extraction could extract this particular line items, or for instance, an invoice number, and use business entity recognition to extract further custom entities from that particular attachment. And given the fact that we have all of these automated, that could be, of course, it's all a machine learning service. So naturally, when in some cases, where the machine learning service is not clear, a manual intervention could be possible. But otherwise, the solution could automatically provide the answer, and then the end-to-end scenario can be solved purely automatically. But on the other hand, we could also talk about, we want to talk about how do we integrate this, right? And this is where we have another problem where, for instance, optimization of, for instance, purchase requisition. And here, for instance, data attribute recommendation which automates, as we discussed, automates creation, maintenance, and management of structured data, could help in basically creating, training the service, and use this trained model in order to actually, along with ISLM, to integrate it with data from the S/4HANA system, for instance. And this is going to then, we are just, use the ISLM to basically create intelligence scenarios based on the data attribute recommendation service in ISLM as a binding entity, and connect the intelligence scenarios to the DAR service instance and perform end-to-end lifecycle operations. And this is exactly what we will be further discussing about in the next few slides from now. And with that, I will hand over to Preeti, who will now take over and share more details about ISLM and how you could leverage ISLM to train intelligence scenarios. Over to you, Preeti.
Thanks, Karthik. I'd like to just share my screen now, and do let me know once it's visible. Okay, thank you. So just a quick introduction. So my name is Preeti Tigra. I'm working as Director of Product Management in the area of Cloud and Lifecycle Management. And I take care of customer-facing activities for various topics, ISLM being one of my focus topics. So before we dive into the details of ISLM, I would just like to quickly talk about the motivation and the goal behind this solution. So as we extend our AI portfolio capabilities, with that, what we also need is a standardized and an enterprise-ready approach for the underlying framework, which enables easy adoption of ML capabilities. And ISLM is exactly a solution in that direction. It is a standardized framework that supports end-to-end lifecycle management of ML scenarios in S/4HANA. And it is one central cockpit for our internal developers to create and deliver these intelligence scenarios, and for our customers and partners to operate and manage intelligence scenarios. What we also want to support with intelligence scenario lifecycle management, or ISLM in the short form, is the end-to-end lifecycle management for all the different types of ML platforms, ML approaches, and different algorithms that SAP has to offer. As I mentioned, ISLM is the end-to-end lifecycle management framework. So what that means is that we support the activities right from creation to training to deployment to activation. So all these phases are supported in ISLM. As I mentioned, ISLM is the harmonized solution. So with that, what we want to achieve is we want to provide a solution that works in a harmonized and a standardized manner for the different flavors, the different approaches that we offer. Embedded scenarios and the side-by-side scenarios as the broad categories that we can see here. So embedded approach is basically something which is more known to our customers. So this is basically an approach where the business application and the ML provider is running on the same stack. So your S/4HANA application and your ML capabilities in SAP HANA ML. So all of that is running in the same stack. Whereas the side-by-side scenarios are the scenarios or the approach where you have your business application running on S/4HANA and your machine learning provider could be running on a different stack. For example, the SAP DI or SAP BTP-based ML services. Further to this, what we also want to support with our customers is the different approaches with respect to the creation or the availability of these ML artifacts. So for any customer, they could start with the embedded approach. So what that means is they could start leveraging the standard provided software or standard out of the box delivered scenario which SAP offers. So that's something that customers can start with. And the other opportunity or other possibility for our customers is to create their own ML content. So that could be based on SAP AI Core, that could be based on SAP Data Intelligence. So whatever may be your approach, whatever path you may choose, ISLM is your one-stop framework which supports various approaches, various platforms offered by SAP. So a quick overview on ISLM, we have a demo plan and we will share a lot more details, but just to get the context right. So ISLM is delivered with S/4HANA and ISLM provides tight integration of ML artifacts with the consuming business applications. So if you are on S/4HANA 2020, you can start using ISLM. There is no need for any additional licenses. And ISLM is also delivered with on-premise as well as the cloud offerings of S/4HANA. ISLM is the successor of Predictive Analytics Integrator or the PI framework. So as I mentioned, we enable and we support the embedded approach for machine learning scenarios. So what that means is that all the ML scenarios which were earlier available as part of the PI framework are now migrated into ISLM and can be operated upon using the ISLM apps. And in addition to the PI functionality, we offer additional capabilities in ISLM. So meaning you can create your custom models in HANA ML and create intelligent scenarios based on your business needs. What are the key benefits of ISLM? So one of the key advantages of ISLM is that it offers a common consumption model. It standardizes the process around that. So even for our internal teams, this is a big advantage. With ISLM, we are offering end-to-end lifecycle management capabilities. So what that means, right from creation to training, deployment, activation, and so on, we offer a lot of capabilities and we are extending these features. So to name a few latest features that we have recently delivered, we support scheduling of training for APL PAL and SAP Data Intelligence type of scenarios. We have some very exhaustive capabilities in the discovery or the evaluation phase. Namely, we offer additional information about the intelligent scenario. So what that means is that using ISLM apps, you can look up additional information about the consuming application, about the intelligent scenario in the ISLM app itself. You can run prerequisite checks. So what that means that using these checks, you can ensure that this intelligent scenario, a specific intelligent scenario would run successfully in your own environment. As you can see up here, ISLM comes with the Fiori apps, the 3 Fiori apps that you can see here. With the intelligent scenario apps, we support the creation and display and view of the intelligent scenarios. And intelligent scenario management app is more intended towards the operation side of it, which can be used by our customers and partners to operate and manage the intelligent scenarios. Some context about intelligent scenarios, because that's a term that we need to get familiar with. So intelligent scenario is basically the binding entity between the business application and the ML artifact. And you will operate upon intelligent scenario as an entity using the intelligent scenario lifecycle management apps. So as I mentioned, the intelligent scenario is the binding entity between the business application and any ML artifact. So that could be your ML services in the BTP and so on. So intelligent scenario is basically a representation of the business use case that you want to support. So for each business use case, you would have one corresponding intelligent scenario representation. And it is an ABAP object, so it is delivered as part of the package, ABAP package there. Another point that I wanted to highlight here is that with ISLM, we provide control over the productive usage of the ML scenarios. And this is done by a step called activation. So which allows the customers or the business admin to specify the appropriate train model that should be used in the consuming application. So this is another highlight of the ISLM functionality that we offer. Now over here, we see the different phases and the steps involved in the AI project, or the ML project, as you may call it. I will not dive into each and every of these details, these steps, but I would definitely like to highlight what is possible within ISLM. So the first phase is the development and the delivery phase. So as our internal teams would be using ISLM to create and publish these intelligent scenarios. But before that, we have the AI developers and we have the data scientists basically creating these underlying ML artifacts. Now, once you have identified the technology and the algorithm, then ISLM comes into picture. And that's where the our internal teams or the customers would be creating these intelligent scenarios. Now, once these intelligent scenarios are available or published for our customers through ISLM apps, then in the discovery and an evaluation phase, ISLM offers extensive functionalities to discover and get to know more information about these intelligent scenarios. So as I mentioned earlier, we have a functionality called additional information about these intelligent scenarios. So you can look up information such as the associated Fiori apps, the LOB that intelligent scenario is associated with. You can look up the scope item. You can look up things like the help portal links, and so on. All of this information can be very easily looked up in the ISLM apps. Further to this, you can run the prerequisite checks. So ISLM is the only tool that offers this capability, which allows customers to perform checks to see if a specific scenario would run successfully in their system or not. So that's for the discovery and the evaluation phase. Then we come to the initial setup, and this is where you would have to establish technical connection between your business application and the underlying ML service. So here I've taken the example of a BTP-based service. So this would mean creation of the service instance and then creating connection between them. So once this technical setup is realized, then the intelligent scenario can be operated upon the intelligent scenario app. So what that means that you can train the scenario, and once you've trained the scenario, you can analyze the results. And once you're satisfied with the quality of the trained scenario, you can activate, and then the consumption would start in the business application. So this is very briefly about the different steps involved here. So over here, just to give you a few examples of the intelligent scenarios which are available in the ISLM apps, and they are based on BTP-based ML services. So first one here is the ICR service. So this scenario is a very well-known scenario, which basically allows automation of the intercompany reconciliation process. So reconciliation of the transactions which are taking place intercompany. And this service is basically a batch inference enabled service or an asynchronous service. And the same functionality has been enabled in ISLM as well. So which means that ISLM supports the batch inferences. And this is something which is available out of the box for our customers. Then the second scenario that we see here is the sales order automation. So basically, this is based on the AI Business Service, document information extraction, as Karthik spoke about. So using this service, the sales order can be created automatically based on the unstructured data. For example, it could be the purchase order file in a PDF or an image format. All of that can be done in an automated way. This scenario, the sales order automation scenario, is a globally trained scenario. So what that means that customers even need not train this. So this can be readily used by our customers to get instant value. All right. So up here, I just wanted to highlight the key advantages of ISLM and what we offer with ISLM. So as I mentioned, ISLM is intended for our internal teams to leverage this as a harmonized and standardized operational experience that they can offer to their customers. It is the central cockpit to operate and manage, and you can do this within S/4HANA stack. So customers will not have to deal with the added complexity of moving across different stacks. Then, as I mentioned, we also offer the step of activation, which basically streamlines the change management process by allowing to choose the model that you would like to associate with your business application. And last but not the least, we also simplify the inference consumption by providing ABAP APIs and CDS views for side-by-side and embedded flavors, respectively. So up here, again, what we want to highlight is that not only we support diverse use cases, but we are also supporting different ML platforms and different technologies within ISLM. So what you see here is a screenshot from the actual application. So you can see the different types which are supported. When we started off a few years back, we started with the support of SAP HANA ML based or the Pi scenarios. Then we also extended our support to SAP DI. And in our latest release, we have support for application specific services such as ICR. We have support for AI business services such as Docs, BER, DAR, and so on. And in future, we also intend to extend this support for the third-party ML platforms such as Google AI or Azure. So this is something that we are working towards. We also have planned support for SAP AI Core-based scenarios. So this is something which we will first enable internally, and then this would be extended to the customers as well. So before we dive into the demo, I very quickly wanted to highlight some of the out-of-the-box scenarios which are available with ISLM. So as you can see here, we have diverse use cases that we support associated with different lines of businesses that you can see up here. We support different type of algorithms and so on. The top 3 scenarios that you see here are basically from the behavioral insights area, and this enables the government agencies and customers to analyze and predict entities which may have a higher risk of, for example, late filing of taxes or late payment or risk of receivership. Then we have a scenario, as we spoke about, is the ICR scenario, which is based on the ICR service. Then these 2 scenarios basically are from the PAL area, and they predict the damage control. And the last one here is the sales order auto extraction, as we saw. Now, this one here is basically a screenshot that I just wanted to highlight very quickly, that we have all the Pi scenarios now migrated into ISLM and can be worked upon using the ISLM apps. And the Pi apps that we had are deprecated from 2021 and 2108 cloud release. So we would highly recommend you to start operating these apps using ISLM, as Pi apps would become obsolete in the future releases. So that was very quickly an overview on ISLM. And with that, I'd like to now hand it over to my colleague, Abhishek, for a demo.
Thanks, Preeti. Share my screen. Hello, everyone. My name is Abhishek. I am from Cloud and Lifecycle Management area. I work as the product owner for ISLM. Let's get started with a demo around ISLM. So we are in the S/4HANA system, ABAP system, where we see 3 Fiori apps which are offered by ISLM. The first Fiori app is the Intelligent Scenarios app. So let's get started with this app. So in this app, business administrator could basically see the out-of-box SAP shipped ML use cases. So we have all those use cases which have been delivered via ISLM and the one migrated from Pi. And if the business administrator is now interested to basically in a specific use case around a certain line of business, they could also now filter the use cases based on the line of business. For example, from the sales area, services, maybe sourcing and procurement, and maybe finance, supply chain, etc., or whatever LOBs they want to select. And then the ISLM page will basically filter these scenarios based on the specific line of business. And if the business administrator has decided to use a specific use case, the pain point here in the discovery phase was how to get started with a use case. What is the Help Center documentation link, which has more information about the business application which has delivered the use case? What is the scope item to be activated? What is the communication scenario to be used? In which system flavor is the scenario supported? And what is the business benefit the scenario offers, and so on and so forth. So with that, ISLM also now provides the additional information about the consuming business application in terms of what is the Fiori ID, in which the predictions will be shown in the business application, what is the documentation link, and then the customers could also click on the show details page and navigate to the additional information tab, where they can get all the information related to the consuming business application and get started with this use case. With this app, what we also offer is the creation of the intelligent scenario. So as we saw in the slides, that intelligent scenario is basically the binding entity between the business application and the machine learning artifact. And it is an ABAP object. It's an ABAP representation of a ML use case. So SAP can deliver the use case. So these are all the out-of-box scenarios. And if customers have their own custom use case, or they want to create their own intelligent scenario for their own specific use case, which is not supported by SAP, that is also supported by ISLM, where this kind of a create option. So on the embedded or the HANA ML side, we support the two HANA ML libraries like APL and PAL. And then the model type could be selected, and also the algorithm that is required for the APL can be selected. So APL is more of a low-code approach where just some kind of a training and apply CDS views are required. And PAL is more like a coded approach, which supports wide range of algorithms, much more extensibility options. And here an AMDP class has to be created, and then the scenario and the model could be delivered from SAP. Let's also see on the side-by-side front, which are the different flavors that we support. So on the side-by-side front, we support different types. One on the platform side, we started with SAP Data Intelligence, where the custom ML content could be built by the customers, and then they could use ISLM to integrate the ML capabilities in the business application, provide end-to-end ML ops, starting from training the model, deploying it, activating it, and then also consuming the predictions in the business application. We started with the support of different AI business services. So document information extraction is one of those AI business services that we support now, which we'll also see in the demo. And we also support some kind of a app-specific service like intelligent intercompany reconciliation, which is catered to a specific area like financial. We also support business entity recognition, which helps to extract kind of business entities from an unstructured text. And BER is basically a kind of a batch inference use case, which deals with a huge amount of open items for inference. And here ISLM simplifies the entire consumption aspect as well, where ISLM basically tries to pull the inference execution, downloads the inference results, and also notifies the application once the inference results are available and then can be consumed in the application. We also support the SAP data attribute recommendation, which is again the AI business service, which helps to classify the data records. So we support different templates of that, like the classification, the auto ML, the deep learning, and all that. And here we also have a demo planned in the detail. We'll see that. And we also started with the support for SAP Core, where if the customer has a need to build their own custom ML content, they could build it on SAP AI Core and then integrate their ML capabilities into a business application in S/4HANA, and also perform the end-to-end lifecycle management aspects in a standardized and a harmonized way. What we offer for customers as of now for custom creation is SAP Data Intelligence and Business Entity Recognition. But going forward in future, we'll also enable other types like data attribute recommendation and SAP AI Core. So let's take a use case which is delivered from SAP, which makes use of document information extraction AI business service. And let's see what are the different phases which are involved and how ISLM is supporting in different phases of integration, as well as the delivery and the consumption. So this is the scenario of sales order auto extraction, where a sales representative basically gets a PDF document, which is a purchase order document in a PDF format. And then they want to kind of extract the information which is there in the header and the line item and create a sales order request based on that. So from S/4HANA side, the internet scenario has been delivered. Information extraction type. So what is required for a side-by-side scenario is this kind of a prediction class, which basically defines the behavior of a scenario. So in this case, the class would tell what is the kind of inference which is required. Maybe here it is the online inference. And this is a globally trained model, which does not require any training to be done. And just directly the model can be called and the inference results could be obtained from the model and could be shown in the business application side. Now, once the scenario has been delivered, the next part is basically the setup phase, where a technical administrator would go to BTP and they would provision the document information extraction service, create the service instance and the service key. And service key has different details. For example, the client ID, the client secret, the authentication endpoint, the URL, the API endpoint. And using this information, then the technical administrator would basically go to the S/4HANA ABAP system where ISLM provides an IMG activity, and then they could maintain a connection between an intelligent scenario and the document information extraction service instance, which was created in BTP. So to maintain the connection, what is required is that you have to specify the scenario name. We need an RFC destination in the S/4HANA ABAP system, which has the API URL. We need the OAuth profile and the OAuth configuration, which has all the details what we saw in the service key, like the client ID, the client secret, the authentication, and the token endpoint. And using this, the connection can then be maintained between the internet scenario in ISLM and the Dart service instance, which is based in BTP. Once the setup phase is over, since this is a pre-trained model, there is no specific need for a business administrator to train the model. And that's why we basically kind of create a default trainings and deployments, and the business administrator could then go and activate the deployment for productive usage in the business application. Once that is done, then the internal sales representative could basically go to the create sales order automation and the Fiori app. And in this app, basically they could take this. Maybe this is one of the PDF purchase order files where you see that there is some information in the header and some line item information which has the product quantity and other details. And then a sales representative could basically upload this document. And here the business entity recognition globally trained model would be called. And then ISLM basically helps in the easy integration and consumption from the model via the ABAP API, which ISLM provides. So once the PDF file is uploaded and the information is extracted, then the sales request is created, then a kind of a simulation run can be done, and the other missing fields could be filled, and then a sales order could be created based on that. Now let's take another use case around the data attribute recommendation and see how ISLM basically helps and simplifies the entire integration of a DAR scenario, which is based in BTP with a business application in S/4HANA, how an end-to-end lifecycle management can be performed using ISLM, and how ISLM helps in easy change management and also in the audit management, and how ISLM simplifies the entire consumption from the trained machine learning model. So let's take a sample use case here, which we have created. So this is a scenario where we are trying to predict the supplier for a free text purchase requisition based on the data attribute recommendation. So to create the scenario, again, the steps are the same, that you have to create an intelligent scenario with a name and then specify the type. So here the type is data attribute recommendation. And then a prediction class is required, which basically implements an ISLM interface. So this is something which an ABAP developer needs to do, that they need to implement certain interfaces provided by ISLM. And there they have to specify what is the kind of a template which is required from the DAR side, whether it's a generic template or whether it's a hierarchical template or whether it's the AutoML template or maybe a regression template. And then they also specify the type of inference to be used. And ISLM also provides some kind of a hook points where some kind of a custom extensions or some kind of a logic can be written where some of the parameters and the input artifacts which are required in the training process can also be pre-populated. When the scenario is created and it is published, So the next step would be again the same as how we saw it for document information extraction, where a technical administrator would basically go to BTP, create a provision the DAR service in BTP in their own account, create a service instance and a service key, and then maintain a connection between the intelligent scenario in the S4HANA ABAP landscape to a BTP service instance, to a DAR service instance here. And the RFC destination OAuth profile and config has to be configured, and then a connection check would also be done here, where we see that the connection between ISLM, the intelligent scenario in the DAR service instance is ready and it is working fine. Once the setup phase is done, the next step is the ML ops side. So here the business administrator would basically start with training the model based on the data which is available in the system. So before that phase starts, one of the pain points which always the customers basically face, if basically a scenario is delivered from SAP, will the scenario work in their system? Do they have enough data to train the model? Are all the required business configurations required for that specific use case, has it been maintained? Has the technical jobs which are required, are they activated? So are all the business configurations and the data parts and all the required criteria which are required to work on the SAP delivered use cases fulfilled by the given S4HANA system? To check that, we also offer the possibility of prerequisite check. So let's also see that with this DAR use case. So this is the intelligent scenario that we were talking about. And then a business administrator could perform a check to see whether S4HANA system meets the readiness requirements to work on this use case. So there, the business administrator could give some description of the prerequisite check run. And here they also see what are the checks which has been delivered by SAP. For example, what is the data quantity check, whether there is sufficient data to train the model, where the required business configurations are maintained, whether the connection is working and the technical jobs are active. And then they could also specify certain parameters. For example, if they want to check whether for a specific company code or a country code, is my prerequisites met? So it could also be based on certain parameters. And once all the information has been reviewed, a business administrator could trigger a prerequisite check run and also see the result of a check run. So they could go to the prerequisite check run in the intelligent scenario management app. And here they see that all the 4 checks were successful, nothing failed. And to get more information, they could also come to this details page where they see that the data quantity requirements are met. The minimum value was something around 50 and actually is 356, and some kind of a business specific configuration, connection, technical jobs, everything is active. And now the business administrator basically has the confidence that this use case can work in the system, and then they can start with the ML ops side, where the business administrator could train the model based on the data which is available in the system. And here we have also pre-populated data set which was uploaded for the training process, and the train button can be triggered. And once the model has been trained, the business administrator could also analyze the quality of the trained machine learning model. So here we see different information in terms of some kind of a admin information in terms of who trained the model, how much time it took to train the model, what was the input to the model, what is the output that it produced, that is a trained model, and some of the quality information. For example, some of the debrief information in terms of how accurate the model is, what is the F1 score, what is the precision, what is the recall. Higher the values of these key fields, key metrics, then better the quality of the model would be. So once the business administrator has decided and see that the model is of the good quality, then they could deploy the trained model. Here, ISLM is intelligent enough to automatically fill the model that has to be deployed. And once the deployment is done, then in the change control step, if there are multiple trained models and deployed models, the business administrator needs to decide which model should return the predictions or the inferences in the consuming business application. And that basically controls the productive usage in the business application side. That is decided by the step of activation. So we offer 2 flavors of activation. One is activate for me, where a business administrator could just activate a trained model only for his user, test the inference results, and if he's satisfied with the inference results, then he could also roll it out and activate it for all the users in the system. It is more like a phased approach. So once the training is done, the model is the trained model has been obtained, the model has been deployed and activated. The next step, where ISLM again simplifies the entire or consumption from the trained deployed model, is by providing some kind of easy to use ABAP APIs, where a business application teams just have to specify the scenario class, give the request that is required to train the model, which are the features based on which you need the output from the model, and then based on that, they could basically trigger get a result from the trained model in JSON format, and then do some post processing and show it in the business application. So end-to-end phase, if you see from the creation of the scenario, from the setup towards the prerequisite check, which is still in the discovery phase, and the end-to-end ML ops plus the consumption from the model is simplified by using ISLM. Let's also move to some further information about ISLM. So here are the links for AI Core, AI Business Services, Conversational AI, and you can basically go to these links to get more information. And with ISLM, we provide here with the help center documentation link. We also have the community page where all the information around ISLM is basically put in one central place where you can get a lot of insights around different topics around ISLM. We also have some podcast links which has been attached. So that's what we wanted to cover from ISLM side. Thanks a lot for attending. We can move to Q&A.
Thank you, Abhishek, for the detailed demo. There were also some questions already in the chat related to what you've shown. While we address those questions, here again an invitation to all watchers to raise your questions, post them in the chat. But let's start with those that have been posted. Abhishek, you showed the scenarios. Are there any scenarios also for transportation management?
In the area of transportation management, we don't think there's any SAP delivered use cases. But it could be created by customers. The customers could also utilize the custom creation possibility in ISLM to create their own custom end-to-end scenario.
Okay, and then in regards to training, a community member posts here with Pi, it was possible to train a model directly in SAP Analytics Cloud and publish it back to S/4HANA. Is this bridge outdated, or do you plan to allowing this as well with ISLM?
In ISLM, currently the integration with SAP Analytics Cloud is not supported. However, we directly now offer the custom creation in ISLM where the APL or the Power-based scenarios could directly be created in ISLM. The model could be trained and also be activated. But in future, depending upon the requests from customers and partners, maybe the SAC integration could also be looked upon.
Thank you. And then I know you touched very briefly on where people can learn and try out SAP AI Business Services. I think you mentioned the tutorials, right? Can the community then try them out each service themselves, or how does it work?
Karthik, you want to take this question?
Sure. So yeah, so there is actually a tutorial. So there are like missions as well on the SAP developer tutorial page where members can actually run on by themselves. So we have like a trial account creation as well. So the complete guide will actually walk you through from the, for instance, a creation of a service instance to walking you through different tutorials, explaining why there are certain things and so on. So everything is self-explanatory. And of course, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to the SAP community page, and we'll be happy to share more information if there is anything that needs to be clarified.
Thank you. Then a follow-up question here, or from the same person. For an APL use case, we need a train and apply data sets. Are there requirements on the dataset size? We would like to show a quick demo to a client.
I don't think there are any specific limitations on the size of the data set. I think that is something that could be explored and tried out, is what we can mention.
Okay, now you've also showed where people can follow up. Kartik, you also mentioned it. So it's also in the description of this YouTube video, where we point to the community topic pages, one for the artificial intelligence topic page, where you can find community content, all the tutorial links as well, of course, and any updates around this. But there's also a community topic page around ISLM, where you can deep dive into this topic as well. And of course, we're always happy to see your questions. If you need any help from the community, to post your questions there. Now, I've also posted into the chat what's next. So you've seen the slide deck with many links. We'll make it available. And so I recommend to go to this blog post that was posted in advance by Paul Pinar, who is always posting about updates about artificial intelligence, AI business services, etc. And we'll make the slide deck available there. So click on follow. You get notified for also upcoming comments if we have updates here. And yeah, if you like this call, give us a like, tell us where you want to learn more from the speakers. I think they're happy to always come back, right? Now you're put on the spot here, but I hope so. But anyways, I wanted to say thank you for the three of you, Priti, Kartik, Abhishek, for the detailed information, for your time spent here with the audience. And I'll do a quick check if there's any urgent question that the audience wants to get addressed right now before we close the call. And I'm looking into the questions here in the chat. Actually, one question, maybe from my side. Well, how do people decide between using AI business services and writing own custom machine learning implementation? Maybe it's something you can cover real quick as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So that's a fantastic question. So one of the main reasons why we have different AI business services is to showcase, tackling different business problems, right? So we basically, for instance, if we have document extraction, information that you would like to extract from invoices, for instance, then you go for that's a specific business problem. And again, similarly, to basically maintain quality of structured data, for instance, that's another business problem that we have, and we have data attribute recommendation. For instance, so similarly, you have for customer ticketing, for classifying tickets and so on. Then you like to have service ticket intelligence. And instance. So basically, the point here is that we have different services that are tackling business problems to solve business use cases, and these machine learning models that you will basically use to train with these services are going to be doing specific tasks. And so there will be, of course, business use cases where these might not be sufficient. You would like to probably add a bit more, so sort of like something to it. So, for instance, if you would like to have, maybe a similarity model built on top of it, or like an image classification model that you would like to build, and then, of course, maybe tune in, add in together with, for instance, like ticket classification. You would like to, for instance, take an example of, you have an image that is being attached to every email that you would like to classify. And we currently do not have like a business service that actually tackles image classification. And this is again a use case where we could, you could leverage a third-party service or build your own image classification service that could then use this to classify the image on one side, and then of course use service ticket intelligence, for example, to classify the ticket itself from the text perspective. So yeah, so the main point that I'm trying to make is, so first of all, the guideline would be to first of check if there is an existing business service. If there is an existing business service, then you have pretty much, a lot of things solved for you. You have end-to-end integration, you have quality from the SAP perspective, everything is taken care. But if not, so then you basically think about, are there third-party services? For instance, then you could then leverage third-party services on AI Core and build your own service on AI Core. So that's another way to do it. And if there is still, if your use case is probably maybe does not even, qualify in these two services scenarios, then you could then think of building your own service. So this is when you would have to probably know how, have some background with machine learning. You need to know how to then build a service. But AI Core has a lot of guidelines and a lot of tutorials as well to help you with this journey as well, that you will be able to actually go through that as well. But the point is, this would be the a typical workflow. So what does your data look like? Does your business problem already come into one of these business services that we already have a service for? And then finally, is there a third-party service? And if not, none of these actually then solve your problem, then you could of course build your own service.
Okay, thanks. No, I think this will surely be helpful for others to get the direction and how to get started. There's a question now also in direction to you, Pretty, probably in regards to ISLM, or maybe Abhishek, any one of you that could take that question to point out the difference between ISLM and SAP AI Launchpad.
Yeah, so yeah, let me take this question. So, the personas, I think, which are using both these tools or the applications are completely different personas, where ISLM is more intended for a non-ML expert who does not have a lot of machine learning knowledge. And ISLM also runs in the context of the business application, providing the easy integration capabilities and the end-to-end lifecycle management in S/4HANA ABAP stack. Launchpad, maybe on the other side, yeah, it's more for maybe a data science kind of a persona or a business analytics kind of a persona, where maybe you've created a content in AI Core, you want to test it end to end. It does not offer you the integration capabilities as of today. So, and it does not maybe run in the context of the business application, but it is more a tool which is intended to kind of support the end-to-end ML ops for maybe AI Core now and maybe also other AI runtimes in future.
Mm-hmm. Thanks. You might have mentioned it. I don't remember either. Maybe you have a link that you can share with me. I can share with the audience in the chat. Is there any environment where ISLM can be tested?
So we have the CAL image, which can be used to test ISLM. So we deliver some out-of-the-box scenarios, and also there are some capabilities to create a custom scenario. So it comes with certain steps with the user guide and so on. So that could be used to play around and get a feel of ISLM.
Okay, would be a first step for the audience to maybe visit the community topic page to get started with ISLM?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So.
Okay, then I will post the link in chat again. And yeah, thanks for all the questions, by the way, in the chat. I think it's always very valuable for both the audience and also for you speakers to know what are your pain points, where is it, where do you need more guidance and advice from the speakers. Maybe to have a last question covered, as I think the interest was also in regards to Pi framework. So embedded ML scenarios have been migrated to use ISLM, and Pi framework has been depreciated. So Pretty, could you share some guidance around usage of ISLM in context of Pi scenarios?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there are nearly 20 plus or 25 plus Pi scenarios which have been migrated into ISLM framework, and you can directly operate upon them using the ISLM apps. Also, I think I mentioned that ISLM apps have been deprecated starting S/4HANA 2021 and 2108 cloud release. So within next few releases, ISLM apps will become obsolete. So it's a good idea to start using the ISLM apps instead of the Pi apps, because that's the future. And especially if you are creating something, if you're creating a new content, then managing that would become all the more difficult. So I would highly recommend to get started with ISLM. Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. I think that's a call to action here. And yeah, again, for the audience, thanks for watching. Let us know if there's any topic that you would like to be addressed around AI AI Business Services, going deeper, ISLM, posted in the comment to the blog post. With that, I'm very happy to have had you here. Thanks for your time again, and I wish you a great day ahead. Yeah, talk to you soon.
Thank you for having us on.
Bye,
Thank you.
everyone. Okay, ended the live.